here's my main guy right here, Bowen Crawford. He's coming to help me tie the egg-sucking articulated bunny leech today. Can you tie this, buddy? You want to tie a few of these? Or you're going to, do goldfish crackers. Love these things. So here we go. We're going to run down, tie articulated bunny leech today. Super easy pattern to tie. Big favorite here in BC. Here we go. Articulated flies are tied because we can tie a longer fly without getting short takes on it. In this case, I'm using some rabbit strip, and you'll see here in a second as we run through the tutorial of how to tie this thing. Rabbit strip, if we were to use it on just a regular shanked hook and have this length of fly, what we'd end up having is a lot of short takes on fish. With this articulated pattern and style, what you can do is you can tie a longer fly, have the hook in the back, and capitalize on when you get in those grabs. This is a fly that is a favorite, not so much in the spring, but definitely in the fall. You'll see a lot of guys up on the Bulkley system fishing this. It's a really simple fly to tie, and I'll just run through my style here of what we do with tying the intruder, the articulated version of this. And I'll do a tutorial as well of tying this on a tube, because there's a lot of guys who like to fish this on a tube. So here we go. We'll get started tying this thing for you guys. So a material list for this is pretty simple. I'm going to run through a little Kingfisher blue thread, some P-line, crystal flash, rabbit strip, some Schlappen, size 2 gammy hooks. I'm going to start here by setting up the trailer hook on this articulated leech. I'm going to take the 2/0 gammy, and we're just going to run this P-line through. This is a 20-pound test. So the reason I use this is that it isn't quite as rigid as metal trailer wire. So this will let the rabbit strip really swim around here, and just kind of showing you how to get that through and how it should line up. Base layer, blue thread here. I'm going to snip it off, and this is where I'm going to attach the rabbit. So measuring out the rabbit strip, if you're going to tie a whole bunch of these, go ahead and cut your strips and measure them out so they're all the same, and just get it wet a little bit here so I can tie it and just keep the hair fibers out of the wrapping process. I want to wrap it on the top of the hook, and it's probably maybe going to take 6 or 7 good nice wraps, and then I'm going to pull it back and tie it onto the shank, and that will sort of secure it. This is this is just make sure that it's on there good, because that's going to be hanging off the back of the hook. A couple half hitches here, secure it, and then there's my little girl. She came in to check everything out, and that's sort of what it looks like. So once you're done that, if you're tying a whole bunch of these, go do this to begin with. I don't have any zaps, so I'm just using a little head cement here, but something to secure it. And go ahead and tie a bunch of these if you plan on tying a whole bunch of these flies. So that's sort of the first part. I'm going to put that aside and then get building on the body. So I'm using a Mustad streamer hook here. Why? Because I'm not going to actually need the hook itself. I'm just using it as a shank, and near the end of the video you'll see what I do with it in terms of cleaning it up. But it's just a simple way of tying these flies, and it's cheap. I got a little bead on there up front. Get a base layer of thread down, and then I'm just kind of measuring out where the rabbit strip is. It's going to come up pretty close to the back of the bead, and I'm just going to tie this P-line down. Give this some pretty good wraps here. This is 140 thread, so this is heavy duty thread, but I'm still just going to give it a little glue here. Toothpick's a great little tool if you're fly tying. I go through a bunch of toothpicks because they're just easy to do, throw away, don't make a big mess. And then getting your crystal chenille on here. So you can use whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. I'm just using some purple here, but whatever. You could use black dubbing. You could use whatever tickles your fancy there. Tying that off, and I'm just leaving a little space because there's a couple components I still need to get in here. Number one, I need to get the rabbit strip up front and tied into the main shank of the hook. Rabbit strip is, generally has sort of a thicker skin to it, so you kind of need to give yourself a little bit of space. And then I'm going to obviously finish it up with getting some schlappen and some flash on there. So this is just going to be up over the top. I'm just kind of measuring it out here, a couple of wraps, tighten it up, and then make sure your beads are nice to tie with because they kind of hide the thread. As you're tying, there's very often you'll have that thread just kind of pull underneath the bead and actually tightens everything up and kind of makes everything disappear. And a lot of bead flies I never even use glue on. So little flashaboo here, crystal flash, use whatever you want, a little shine to it. It's just kind of like a black, blue, purple combo that I tie into a ton of flies, doubling it over. Now I'm going to just pick out a little bit of this Kingfisher blue schlappen. Get some fibers, nice long fibers, a little nice webby, and I always set my feathers up like this, so I'm just going to clean them up before I tie them in. I don't do this for all the flies, but just trying to give you an idea of how to work with schlappen feathers, and that's going to get tied in over the top of it, and then I'm going to start palmering it up forward and just pulling those fibers back with my finger to keep them from wrapping on one another. If you find yourself sort of wrapping on one, just slow down a little bit. And this is always the front end of the fly always should take a little extra time because there is always going to what makes the fly look good. And just tightening it down here with a couple wraps, and I'm gonna give it a snip. But it's pretty easy fly really to tie overall. It's one of those ones that's comes together pretty quickly here. A couple half hitches, just tightening it down with a thread. I don't put any glue on this, and I'm done. So how do we get rid of the hook? This is where I'm going to pull it back. I'm just going to straighten everything right up, and I'm going to pull everything out of the way so I don't cut it. And then I just got a little pair of needle nose pliers here with a pair of snips in there, and I'm going to snip this off. Leaves a nice clean end to it, and that's just a really cheap way of doing it. It's you don't need a tube, you don't need any sort of special shanks or anything, and if you don't have a shank tool, it is. So there you go. That's a fly right there, and tied in the style that I do it. It is a favorite around here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on the regular social medias, Cromer Sport Fishing on Instagram, on Facebook, all that good stuff. Thanks for checking out, and check back soon. We'll do a couple more of these. Cheers.